different types of things you can do in terms of riverine improvements. But since Kathy's back, I'll let her keep going.
Sorry, Kathy, I don't know what happened there. I think you might have been cut off. We all got put into the main room.
Hello? Hello?
You're back? Yeah, can you hear us? Yeah, you're
I
back.
can hear you fine. Sorry, did I disappear?
No, we all disappeared back to the main room for some reason.
Oh, okay. No, I think basically I'd mentioned there are lots of resources and expertise out there in terms of river restoration options and, you know, menu options depending on the site that are getting increasingly well understood. If you needed some headlines, you know, increased hydromorphological diversity, bed raising, increased stream restored stream length, increased gradient, all this sort of stuff. All very exciting.
Yeah, no, that's really useful. And part of this project, so we're looking at the sort of benefits to people as well as nature. So are there opportunities in terms of when you restore, you know, a river, would these opportunities come through to people, you know, the benefits be felt by people? What are the sort of benefits gained? You know, is it in terms of improved water quality? I don't know, better fishing?
At the risk of jumping in, and again, anyone jumping in as well, it's quite well understood. I mean, there's a lot of talk out there about blue-green infrastructure.
Yeah.
And links, basically, if you look at most watercourses, you know, that basically the more naturalistic a river is, the better access it is. If you imagine you've got a steep incised trapezoidal straight channel, no one looks in it. If you have a more meandering, shallower river, you know, children go in there down the little beached areas and enjoy it and stand in it. It's very well documented and understood, the benefits of having a more naturalistic watercourse and river corridor floodplain environment. Especially, I mean, urban river restoration can be more expensive because you get services and ground contamination, but it's hugely beneficial for well-being. And again, that's very well documented, isn't it? The understanding of informal recreation, including fishing, but also just strolling along a river with your dog.
So I think that's, so, you know, because we are doing a sort of multiple benefits assessment, having benefits to humans as well as to nature is really important. So that's really good to know. I mean, even if it's more costly to do it in an urban area, the benefits that you'll get, you know, to mental health and things like that and recreational benefits will outweigh those costs of doing
urban
it there.
Fringe, even, you know, people
Urban
walk
fringe.
to.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about, you know, keeping up with the current agendas, areas that are accessible from people who live in towns that can stroll out that may have not had the same constraints. What I would say, and I don't know how it ties in with your agenda, but Severn Trent are uniquely placed to make some significant differences. So one thing that detracts from the naturalistic experience, if you like, is a proliferation of concrete outfalls, combined surface, you know, sewer overflows, all that kind of stuff. But setting, again, this is well, you know, well documented, but setting back outfalls, opening up underground drainage, retrofitted suds, I'd shove that on the list of menus. You know, sustainable urban drainage, that can all combine to get the double whammy of improved water quantity and quality, you know, across the year, across the hydrograph, but also look a dam site better, not the relatively utilitarian enormous flood basins you see with uniform 1 in 3 slopes, but actually something more gentle and landscaped. I mean, again, they can be quite big ticket items, or sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's quite straightforward, but I'd say so Severn Trent Water has got expertise, and sometimes that if you were going to sort of map overlap for multiple benefits, an approach that Severn Trent Water have taken in the past in different areas or different water companies is overlaying where you've got sewers, be it surface water or combined, that are basically under capacity. So what can be done there to actually divert, you know, road drainage into boring green spaces, ideally with water courses, and, you know, basically review the whole underground sewerage system, which inevitably is increasingly under stress.
Mm,
So
right,
I'd say
okay.
Severn Trent have got that angle, which is covered to different degrees and has different degrees of buy-in across the organisation. But I wouldn't fight shy of that, because that, in a way, it's playing to your strengths, or to
Yeah,
the strengths of your client.
yeah.
It's a thought, you know.
So we've got about 8 minutes to go, so we'll probably finish at 4. And in the next, when we get to the main room, I think we're just going to go over sort of a few main points that came out of our discussion. So what I've taken away is that these are my sort of pointers. So yeah, so if there's any more detail, then just shout. But what I've sort of picked on is that local authorities are looking at net gain, and they are being quite ambitious with their biodiversity net gain. You know, they're not just looking at I don't know, they're not just trying to achieve the minimum 10%, they're trying to be a bit more ambitious in terms of biodiversity. Target the river restoration, so rather maybe, you know, looking actually improving the restoration of the rivers. So things like floodplain reconnection, lowering, so that's like lowering a piece of land next to a river, floodplain meadows, maybe target certain types of species. So for example, Chris, you mentioned eels are endangered species, so you could look at passive devices. And it's also to target sort of the benefits to humans, you know, look at blue and green infrastructure. So look at areas within an urban setting, and also look at the urban fringe. And there's also approaches being done in Stroud, so they use a land bank approach. Is anything in there that I've missed that you'd like me to mention?
I wouldn't want to say that the land bank approach is fully developed. I know developments are being made, so
Okay.
it's something to be aware of in terms of exploiting existing initiatives, or at least not butting up against it. So it's not a holy grail, but but it's a developing area.
Yeah, okay. It's a developing area to sort of remove those barriers of having land, you know, landowners sort of talking to people that own the land in order to do environmental interventions.
If you like.
And this is all recorded, so we'll have this all down, but
Oh dear.
it's fine, don't worry, you haven't said anything. It's been really, really useful conversation. Yeah, because I think Lawrence, we were talking about I think we've tended to focus more on terrestrial side, is that right? Rather than the actual.
Yes, so I guess when we use the metric, it obviously splits up terrestrial and aquatic into two separate assessments, effectively. So we have considered aquatic impacts. It is, as I think was previously mentioned, a little bit harder to quantify as much with the kind of various I guess information out there, and we have undertaken some river morphology surveys over the summer to try and kind of update some of our knowledge of some of these watercourses and therefore potential impacts. But I guess it's potentially looking at some of the terrestrial impacts and maybe looking at some of the kind of mitigation we'd looked at and creating a more kind of link to benefiting kind of the aquatic and watercourses as well through kind of like things like floodplain, etc.
I'm just thinking we've got 3 minutes left, but who do we need to be talking to, I know we've got everyone on here on this call, but are there any other wider stakeholders that we should be engaging with?
Picking up on what's been said before, which I could hear, if you've got the membership of a respective category, that would be.
Sorry, Kathy, I can't really hear you.
If you ask for the membership for the various categories, if you've got a full membership, you could trawl through those.
Sorry, you broke up a bit, Kathy.
Oh dear, I need to get some new headphones. People have made reference to these CABA groups and other outfits of that nature.
Yeah.
If you got hold of the membership list of those groups, that might provide some
Okay.
links potentially. Obviously, things can go through the CABA, but if you have an understanding of what's behind it, there might be some more detailed leads you could follow up potentially.
Okay. Sue, you come off mute. Okay, we've got 1 minute left, so I'm going to take us all back to the main rooms. But thank you very much. It's been really, really good. And I think we've got a lot to go on, haven't we, Lawrence?
Yes, thank you so much. That was, yeah, really useful.
Okay.